Electricity got expensive. This is why we need to get the most out of it. Based on measuring the power consumption behavior of our devices, we create a strategy and a setup to get the lowest energy bill without sacrificing the quality of life. In a following video, we will test if we can trust the measurements of our Shellies and Sonoffs using this calibrated power meter. A rewarding venture. Let's start. Ritzy YouTubers, here is the guy with the Swiss accent, with a new episode and fresh ideas around sensors and microcontrollers. Remember, if you subscribe, you will always sit in the first row. In this video we will classify our devices based on their influence on our electricity bill. Establish 4 quadrants that need different strategies. Decide on an efficient strategy for each quadrant. Understand how we can use our daily movement patterns to implement such strategies. Look at some examples of my home. I will concentrate on electricity because of the nature of this channel. Of course, we could extend the discussion to other forms of energy like gas, oil or wood. This is why I will show you an exciting product in this category too. To get good strategies, we classify our electricity consumers along these 2 questions. How long are they on? And how much energy do they consume? We could use different questions, but I felt these were appropriate to solve the problem. To create reasonable rules, I create 4 quadrants. We could create more, but I think it would disturb our thinking. Ultimately, we will place all our home's devices into one of those quadrants. Let's start with quadrant number 1, where we find the low power consumption and short duration devices. Things like electric toothbrushes belong to this quadrant. We will no longer talk about this class because it is a waste of time. The other prominent class is number 2, where consumers are on for a long time and use high power. This is where a lot of energy is used. Fortunately, they are rare in a typical household. Heating or cooling belongs to this quadrant. Here, efficiency and duration count. Because we heat our home and water with wood and do not need air conditioning, we have no such electricity consumers. In quadrant number 3, consumers still use much power, but only for short periods. Cookers or washing machines are typical proponents of this quadrant. I include illumination in this quadrant too, maybe here if it is LED based. And of course the coffee machine during brewing is also here. Low power consumers belong to quadrant number 4, if they are always on or at least for a long time. We all know those devices. They are our routers, hotspots, raspberries, ESPs, etc. But also fridges belong here. So the first step is accomplished. But why do we need these quadrants? Because we can treat the devices inside the quadrant with similar strategies and need different strategies for all other quadrants. But wait, before we talk about strategies, we first have to have a goal. Not like in most companies I worked for. My goal is simple. Get an optimum quality of life with minimal consumption of electricity. We could rephrase it. Electrical energy that does not create quality of life is wasted. Simple. Would you like an example as an illustration? Leaving the light on when nobody is in the room is wasted energy, for example. With this goal in mind, we can create a strategy for the red quadrant number 2. Here we have 3 primary levers. Reducing the intensity, like the temperature in our home. Investing in new technology with higher efficiency, or shifting the equipment into quadrant 3 by reducing its usage duration. Because we want, as always, to concentrate on the low-hanging fruits, today we do not discuss investment projects. So we continue with quadrant number 3. Devices that consume considerable energy but do not need to be always on. Here, reducing the time without sacrificing the quality of life is the most significant lever. How can we achieve that goal? Yes, you are right. We need presence signals because my quality of life is mainly influenced by things around me. So our electricity consumers have to know where I am. Of course, we know many ways of detecting our presence, like PIR or radar sensors presented earlier on this channel. In this video, I want to add 3 less known triggers: switches, smartphones, and lead consumers. In addition to these presence detectors, we need another essential idea: building clusters with related devices. You will later see what I mean. Let's start with the switches. Examples of their usage are my bench or my radio room. I started to use switches not to save energy, but to increase safety. I wanted to be 100% sure that everything on my lab bench is switched off when I'm not there. This became my first cluster, which includes all devices on the bench. To disconnect them from the mains, I added this simple switch. You're right, I could have used this PIR I use for the bench lighting, but I did not want these valuable devices switched on and off just because I moved in its vicinity, which happens many times a day. Because the bench power is off for maybe 90% of the time, I discovered that I also saved a lot of energy. The second cluster is my radio room below the roof. Unfortunately, I do not use it often enough. Because Dishka's toilet is there, other people use this room too. Also, I wanted to be sure that the radios are only on when I need them, so the radio cluster got a switch too. There is one exception. This Arden router and its connected telephone must always be on. So the Arden cluster belongs to quadrant number 4. I label the multiple socket outlets according to the cluster they belong, by the way. This was about the usage of switches to save electrical energy. Another kind of switches are timers. They are ideal for time-based consumers like Christmas ornaments. The smartphone as a presence detector is obvious. Because we never leave home without them, they can be used as a switch. Home Assistants support this functionality, and I plan to use it in the future. Let's continue with significant other clusters. The biggest is around my PC. Many devices only are used when my PC is on. Examples are monitors, loudspeakers, or USB hubs. All in all, these devices use more than 50% of the electricity when I am alone and work in my lab. This is why I used a simple trick. I connected such a solid-state relay to the 5V pin of a disk power connector. This relay switches all consumers in the PC cluster off when the PC is off or sleeping. Another cluster is the TV in the living room with a soundbar and a DVD player. An earlier video shows how it gets its trigger from this sliding door. All devices are switched off when the door is closed, like the light in the fridge. Maybe you have other consumers with a similar lead function and clusters around them? We do not need to cover cookers, washing machines, etc., because it is obvious how to reduce their power consumption. And I refuse to discuss the coffee machine. It produces a lot of quality of life. Basta. So we can go on to cluster number 4. The always or mostly on devices with low power consumption. As you see, they consume around 220 watts, which is 5.3 kilowatt hours a day. If you compare it with the overall daily consumption of 12 kilowatt hours, you see its significance. The most critical cluster is my network, including the internet provider's modem, router, switches and access points. And my home server, which in my last video was upgraded to a Lenovo thin client PC. Look how cute it sits above my main screen. This cluster is always on, because the family needs it. In addition, when switched off and on again, some consumers need manual intervention, which wastes my time. That is why I protected this cluster with a UPS. Other devices in quadrant number 4 are my receivers for satellites and balloons and the TTN gateway on the roof. They have to be always on too. And, as you will later see, the fridges too. What is my proposed strategy for quadrant number 4? Measure your home's power consumption at 2 AM to quickly get the power consumption of this quadrant. Then measure the power consumption of the different devices in this quadrant. Decide if they create enough quality of life for your family and move them to quadrant number 1, if not, by switching them off for some time during the day or night. Replacing such devices with newer technology usually is not a good idea because of the wasted grey energy. So we come to the last question. How can we reliably decide between low and high consumption quadrants? Of course, by measuring the power consumption. Finding good power meters is stuff for another episode. I use this simple manual meter and the Shelly 2PM to measure the power consumption of most devices in our home. Usually I connected the meter for 1 day to get an average consumption. I learned 2 things during this exercise. First, I had more quadrant number 1 devices than expected. Most modern gadgets have a standby consumption of less than a watt. And second, never connect a Shelly or Sonoff power meter with a switch to a fridge. Somehow I managed to switch it off and nearly lost all the content because the temperature started to rise. Fortunately, the freezer has a built-in temperature alarm and my lab is in the basement. Most of the work is done now, and hopefully you will save already a lot of energy. What is our result? Because we do not heat with electricity, I have signs of a 20% consumption reduction because of this exercise without reducing the quality of life. Up till now, we only talked about electricity. But our bill for heating is higher than the one for electricity. This is why I was very interested when I learned that one of the most loyal Patreons on this channel is expanding his business from Japan to Europe. A few years ago, Christian created an innovative solution to save energy with a simple trick. While pushing used and warm air to the outside, his ventilation system stores the heat in a ceramic structure. After 70 seconds, the airflow is inverted and fresh and cool air is heated up with the stored energy. The only energy used is to drive the sensor-controlled BLDC fan. In summer, by the way, the direction is inversed and the cool air stays inside. This is the standard behavior of modern low-energy homes. But ours is already old, so I decided to install his new product for our bedroom when it becomes available. Like that, I hope to get the effect of an open window with lower energy consumption. I will keep you posted on how it integrates into my home automation system too, because this is why Christian became interested in this channel. This was all for today. As always, you find all the relevant links in the description. I hope this video was useful or at least interesting for you. If true, please consider supporting the channel to secure its future existence. Thank you. Bye.